It's the FA Cup. We love the FA Cup. We always do well in the FA Cup. Welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. Welcome to the Prematch pod in association with the Greyhound pub in Ipswich. Seb, I'm having a confusing psychological issue here. I was way more bothered about the FA Cup when we were rubbish in the league. I feel a lot now. We have a team that kind of knows what they're doing and is putting together so far a good season. All of a sudden, it was far more an irritation. It was like, well, can we at least do something in this? Do you feel similar?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. We had so many years bemoaning going out in the first round, second round, Lincoln, non-league, etc., because we were so poor in the regular league and wanted something to look forward to, maybe an away day somewhere nice. But yeah, this year now we're doing really well in the league. I'm sort of, even 2 weeks ago, I was kind of still a bit excited. I thought, okay, Rotherham, good test, a chance for us a bit of a benchmark to see where we are with designs on next season, that kind of stuff. But
then now overtook us.
Yeah,
which Wednesday as well.
Yeah, now we're down to third, and I'm kind of seeing this as a little bit of a distraction, if I'm honest. And I'm not. I always want Ipswich to win, obviously. But if we were to go out against Rotherham on Saturday, I wouldn't be that disappointed, given how things are going at the moment.
I'll tell the truth. A lot of football fans won't. I will retrofit how I feel based on the result. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, fine. Focus on the league. Nobody got injured. Whatever, Or no, this is good momentum. Fringe players got a chance. All of that stuff. It's good preparation for the Plymouth game and all of that. But there we go. Seb, a big hello and welcome. And what was the banging and clattering on your desk pre-recording? And Ipswich fans will find this fun.
So I was bought a Lego Ipswich Town Portman Road set for Christmas on Christmas Day. I opened it on Christmas Day with the intentions of starting it, but it did say it was 863 pieces and it was for ages 10 plus, and I was a few bottle of wine down. So I started it and gave up incredibly quickly, thinking I haven't got the mental capacity for this. So I started it the other day during the game on the weekend, and it is all over this desk here. I have little piles of pieces everywhere. I've been building it for what feels like a week now, and I still have probably 500 of the 800 pieces in front of me. So apologies for any rustling, moving, anything that comes through on the mic, or me picking bits of Lego off my arm. Hopefully I'll get it rectified and get it moved on before next week's show.
Any Russell Osmaning? Enid got like a Duplo, not even Lego, a Duplo like farmhouse scene with a little bit of cardboard. I had to build that, and that was too complex for me. So I don't know how an 800-piece Lego set.
I've seen these ones that Joe's got in the background that look incredible, but I've realised I've got no patience and absolutely no skill or desire for it.
Joe's got that kind of super smart brain for that sort of concentration. Maybe you have. I
haven't.
I'm a creative. I absolutely don't. Yeah.
This is ages 10 plus and I'm struggling. So that kind of tells you my brain aptitude level.
Get your thoughts in on Seb's brain aptitude. And if you've got the Ipswich Lego set, which I suspect any number of our listeners will do, let us know how you went with it.
I must point out a public service announcement. Sorry, page 2 was printed incorrectly in the instruction manual. That didn't help either with my red wine induced hissy fit when I couldn't do it. Page 2 is wrong. If you look on Twitter or if you DM me, I've got the correct one. Somebody did tweet the club and say this doesn't look right in the slightest, and they did send out an updated version. So if you can't get past stage 2, which is about 4 bricks, like I couldn't for about an hour and a half on Christmas Day night, the answer is out there if you need help with it.
Seb, I trust you, but that had real Gareth blaming the calculator in the office energy.
Circuitry.
I have to say. Right, we got to, before we get into the Rotherham game and the FA Cup and how we feel about that, we've got to talk about transfer window, because it's 7:15 on Thursday is when we're recording. So forgive us. We often get yelled at for not being able to read the future or knowing what's happening in the future when other people have information that we don't. But it's been quite an enlightening afternoon. And I think Mel Henderson is freelancing for, is it the Mirror or the Sun?
Mirror Group. I think it's the Mirror Group.
Yeah, one of the big ones. And obviously, if you sit in the Pioneer, you'll see Mel still at a lot of Ipswich games. And I think the conclusion we're making is he's a good source when it comes to Ipswich. What's he been saying, Seb?
Yeah, so I made some notes for the research this morning, and then it all kind of went off in the last 2 hours or so. So it does sound like Massimo Luongo is done. It may well be announced, whilst we're recording this. It sounds like it's going to be a kind of a short 6-month deal to the end of the season. We don't know about any kind of extensions based on promotion or anything. To me, that's a solid signing. The news broke about a week, I think it was, before Christmas, around about the Wickham game, that he'd been training with us. He wasn't getting a look in, obviously, up at Middlesbrough, and Carrick and McKenna have that relationship. So he's been down here, and it sounds like that one is done, which I guess might have future implications for the Jack Taylor deal, which is, by all accounts, it's active, whatever that means in the squeeze scale. Do you mean you and Dave used to have your penalties where it was like, seen it given? We need one of those for transfers, don't we? So, yeah,
over the line.
Yeah, Luongo sounds like it's done. Jack Taylor sounds like it's ongoing, and there's been a few others that have broken today as well.
There's just, if you're watching on YouTube, of course, if you are watching on YouTube, you must hit the like button. This won't be very helpful, so I'll try and explain if you are listening on podcast. We've just got Luongo up, and it's been very sort of, he basically hasn't kicked a ball this season, as he's been on the bench a couple of times there. You can see in the Championship. Did play plenty for Sheffield Wednesday last season. Is a good calibre, steady Eddie type central midfielder. I'm not comparing him to Deschamps, but water carrier type player. He's got 150 appearances for range at QPR Wednesday, nearly 75. He's super consistent, super reliable. Obviously was with us earlier in his career there, 2012, 11 appearances, having come through Spurs. So how can I say this in a very respectful way? Proper, good pro, not going to play if Morsey, whoever, Evans are fit. But good player for someone like Humphreys. I mean, like he couldn't learn it off Morsey anyway, but is that how you see it? I
think very much so. That's exactly what it is. He'll be a squad player. He'll be dipped in and out when we need to. Morsey, I think, is 2 bookings away from a 2-match ban, isn't he? So you've got that imminent. Lee Evans has just come back from injuries, and I guess with his general record, there's always a chance that he might break down again. So with Dominic Ball out for the rest of the season and questions over Kamara not being back before kind of April, March time, I think it's a decent signing. If it's a 6-monther to the end of the season, then it's a bit of a no-brainer. If he's been training with us now for two weeks, he'll be way short of match fitness, obviously, but he'll know what we're all about. And with that relationship between McKenna and Michael Carrick at Middlesbrough, I trust the judgment, without question. So a very, very good, solid signing who maybe isn't going to get many headlines between now and the end of the season, but might just be able to kind of dip in here and there where needed and play a bit of a role. And
if you were 75 minutes into a muggy game and you're just struggling to get it done, maybe you've got the lead at Portman Road and, the crowd's a little bit anxious, understandably. You want to go to a holding double pivot with a midfield, throw him in, he'll be absolutely fine, won't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he knows this league well. Decent record for Sheffield Wednesday last season. So, a solid, if unspectacular signing. And I guess that's hopefully
a good way of saying it. Yeah,
the hopefully spectacular ones are still to come with some of the other names linked today.
So go ahead then.
So Nathan Broadhead is on loan at Wigan, isn't he? You'll know more about him than I will. He's got, is it 5 goals in half a dozen starts or so, something so far this season?
So I think it's 11 starts, but and recently since Kolo Toure has been in there, he was playing up top. Last time I watched him, they were pretty well beaten by Sheffield United, and he played up top ahead of Will Keane in a 4-2-3-1, which I don't know. I know he's played in different spots for Sunderland on his loans there. To be fair to him, he was completely isolated in that game, and basically Kolo Toure had Curtis Tilt and Jack Watmow trying to ping the ball about at the back, and they were not able to do it. And frankly, if it had just gone into Will Keane and or down the line to Callum Lang, it would have been much better. But 24, another one of these players who seems forever in the Everton system, and like Pennington or Garbutt, Connolly, etc. But they all tend to be pretty solid players in the end. What's your take on him?
Yeah, £1 million they're saying, recall him from Wigan and flog him on. And he fits a good age. He's a bit of versatility. He can play on the left, I think, can't he, as well? Mm-hmm. I can't pretend I've ever seen him. I think, did he score the goal against us for Sunderland in the game where McGreal took over? I think McKenna was in the stands and had been announced but didn't officially take charge. I think he might have scored the goal for Sunderland.
Massive attendance, yeah.
Yeah, and the flames are going off and pack out Portland and all that stuff. So, yeah, if it's £1 million, then, you know, we've been crying out for some reinforcements in the forward positions, either up front to help Ladapo or kind of, you know, wider right, wider left for options. And, you know, if it is that done, let's get it done. And that's another exciting one in the building. And I guess that might mean we'll have to look to potentially move one of our existing attackers on, because we can register 2 players, can't we, I think, and we can deregister Ball if he's out for the season. So that's 3 players you can register. If Luongo's done, then that's 1 spot gone. If you've got 2 more to bring in, if you're looking at the likes of, you know, Jack Taylor's still bubbling in the background, Nathan Broadhead's linked, we'll come on to a couple of other names in a minute. Maybe you can look to move the likes of Ahadmi on for 6 months on a loan to try and get him some football and get some confidence. Edwards, I've seen discussed in the Telegram group, could be one to go out.
And can he go out having played for 2 clubs?
He can go to Burton, can't he? He can only go back to Burton.
Oh, okay,
He's played for 2 clubs. If they want him, I've got no idea. You know, the manager's changed, then they might not want him back. But I guess
they'd absolutely want him, yeah.
Yeah, Carl Edwards, I've seen suggested tonight, maybe one that looks to move on and play some decent football, some consistent football for maybe the next 6 months or so. So it sounds like it's going to be a pretty exciting window. And I guess, yeah, kind of watch this space. Everything's sort of broken, doesn't it, in the last 2 hours or so. It's kind of gone from nothing, a bit of grumblings on Twitter with Plymouth announcing people and, you know, oh, we're getting left behind, blah, blah. But it all seems to have erupted a little bit today. And it's all coming from reputable sources, which excites me. And this isn't League1Transfers.com with 7 followers on Twitter. This is the people that, you know the club, and they're kind of announcing these things. So hopefully we should see some movement in the next couple of days.
My mate at League1Transfers.com is really upset that you just said I will say, in terms of I know it's reasonable to make a Plymouth comparison. I get it, and people are. But remember, Plymouth don't have the 2-week run. It was always going to be loaded up for this time now, with no league game this weekend, in terms of Plymouth getting people registered. They're playing in the league this weekend, aren't they?
Yeah.
So it was always going to be a bit of a different timeline for them as opposed to us. But I understand comparing is fine. We get it. That's a completely natural thing to do given the circumstances. But it's slightly apples and oranges with the timelines.
And let's be fair, we're shopping in a completely different market to Plymouth. You know, they've gone and signed a guy who was on loan at Stevenage, who Norwich have recalled, a kind of a left back, and they signed a guy from the Australian League, haven't they? Oh, the guy from is it Blackpool? Kind of Callum something, who's signed for Plymouth, I think, yesterday. Right. That's it. Yeah, he's an okay player, but you know, the kind of players that we're going after will naturally take longer because the deals are more complicated to do. We know in a couple of instances they're out on loan already, so they have to be recalled and then sent on. So, you know, I know I've seen a few things on Twitter and the forums and the message boards, but you know, it's a completely different shopping list to what Plymouth have got. So, be patient, trust in Ashton and his dashboard, and all will be good.
And for any tearful Plymouth fans that might have tuned in, that is a huge compliment that Seb has just paid. And I think every Ipswich fan, when they get irritated when Plymouth take the lead again, there's a big slice of admiration there. So, yeah, don't take it the other way you could there. And George Hurst, that's just not going away, is it?
No, it sounds like, disappointing first half of the season at Blackburn. I think he started 2 games, but I'm guessing, well, as you'll know, that with the form of Ben, Berriton, Diaz, he's going to get nowhere near that side, is he?
And there's a lad, Hedges, that came in from Aberdeen, possibly, that I had Hurst ahead of, but obviously John Dahl Thomason, who obviously knows more about football than I do, doesn't. So, 9 appearances. I don't know how many of those are
2 starts. 2 starts. 7 off the bench. So it's not worked at all, has it? So he signed a big deal at Leicester before he moved there. So the rumours are, I think TWTD are reporting tonight that he'll be recalled from that spell at Blackburn and hopefully be sent off to us. And he was target number 1 all summer pretty much, wasn't he? You know, he was at Pompey last season, took a bit of time to get going there. But when he did, he hit some decent numbers. And we had that bumble on all summer long, and if that's who they wanted, 7-8 months ago, okay, not great that we had to wait the first 6 months to get him, but if they finally got the man they identified as being the number 1 primary target, then absolutely happy days.
Yeah, and you hear sort of things, Liverpool being praised for always waiting for the guy that they really, really wanted. So in some ways, okay, it didn't happen in the summer. That's not great. Okay, it didn't work for him at Blackburn either. That's not great. But if it's someone who's been closely identified and is still a worthwhile, thing to the recruitment team now, then I think, given what they've done prior, I think we probably need to trust them on that one and sort of ignore those couple of factors. You've got Macaulay Bonne on the notes here.
Only because he was released yesterday, wasn't he, by QPR. I don't expect anything to happen with that one. In all honesty, it sounds like he must have something lined up. I think there were some rumours with Leighton Orient, weren't there? He's still a local lad, still lives at Ipswich, so I guess he ideally, I don't think he's ever moved house, has he? Whenever he's been, he's always lived.
Was he at Orient before Charlton?
I think so, yeah. So he always likes to.
That makes so much sense, Seb, because they're flying away at the top of League Two. They don't really have. They've got Kelman and Drinan as well, but there's no real. Here's our guy. The winger Smith scores all their goals, so that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I only put him on the list because I saw some discussion about it on Telegram and Twitter. He's moved on from QPR. Good for him because he wasn't anywhere near the squad, was he? He was getting no game time at all. So hopefully he can go somewhere now and play some decent football and look to rebuild his career a little bit. Absolutely.
So feel free if you're on YouTube, get your comments in on any rumours. Again, complete transparency. It's now 7:25 on Thursday night. We can have a look on Twitter right now, but we assume some. I mean, it's not been beyond the realms of possibility. They've done announcements late at night before. I don't get why you would not do it at a sensible hour, given the next league game's in 10 days' time or whatever it is. But yes, more will happen. We're going to talk about Rotherham in just a second, but here is a word from one of our wonderful sponsors.
Innovation Labs is business hub and co-working space with strategic locations across Suffolk. Our aim is to foster innovation, entrepreneurship, business growth, and the development of an AI centre of excellence in Suffolk. Monthly hot desks are available from just £79. For more info, head to innovationlabsgroup.com or contact info@innovationlabsgroup.com. Innovation Labs, providing support for businesses across Suffolk. Locations in Stowmarket, Ipswich, Sudbury, Woodbridge, with more to follow.
So, Rotherham in the third round of the FA Cup. Now, we always lose to Rotherham, but there is one Norwich supporting, charismatic, dugout-dwelling factor that's not going to be around this time, is there?
Yeah, it's changed, hasn't it? It's all changed there. Like you say, we normally always lose. I was looking at the head-to-head. We'll come on to our recent record against them shortly. And it always just struck me as a team that you knew were going to turn up to Portman Road, be well-organised, be well-schooled, end up inevitably beating us. And they were a real kind of bogey side for a while. But that seems to have changed, with Paul Warne moving on. He's gone to Derby. I think he took most of the backroom staff with him as well, didn't he?
All of them, yeah.
Yeah, they all went with him, and they've gone out and appointed Matt Taylor. There was some rumours of Mark Bonner, I think, weren't there, going there when he
I think he turned it down, to be honest.
Okay, yeah. So stick around at Cambridge and look to build what he started there. And they went for Matt Taylor from Exeter, who has done an excellent job, but he's probably not the kind of manager I would associate with the kind of football previously played by the old regime at Rotherham. And I guess that kind of explains why they are doing as they are at the moment.
Yeah, so when Matt Taylor went in there, it was all, I'm gonna change it bit by bit, and you're totally right, because if you look at even Exeter now under Caldwell, and we played them recently, you sort of see 3-5-2 and wing backs with fullbacks forward, and a front three, often a front two with a 10 as well, and decent attacking side. And whereas Paul Warne's teams, look, and they beat us every time, but you knew what you were getting. They would run the hell out of you, wouldn't they? It'd be direct, and he always talks about get defenders turning and play into the front man and leave it all out there, all that sort of stuff, which, well, keep your eye on Derby, works very well in League One. But it does seem a little bit of a departure, and I mean, I don't necessarily accept the premise that Matt Taylor his teams will always look like his Exeter team, and he can do whatever he likes with the Rotherham squad. But I do tend to agree that it now feels like they're neither a Matt Taylor team or a Paul Warne team, right?
Yeah, they seem to be just kind of stuck between the two in transition, don't they? I guess, I don't know what length of deal he signed there. I'll be honest. I didn't see that when I was.
It'll be a long one, and they won't sack him if they go down either.
Yeah, obviously they've shown loyalty in the past. They were a yo-yo side between League One and the Championship several times, and they always stuck by Paul Warne. So the chairman there is a patient guy, and we were talking off air when we were saying maybe he doesn't necessarily get the kind of the praise that he maybe deserves, given he runs them financially very responsibly. I think, wasn't there that year they were the only club in the Championship to make any kind of profit, and obviously they got relegated. So he's a patient guy, so they won't be looking to rip it up if they do end up getting relegated. But they currently sit 21st in the Championship with 27 points. played 26 games, won 6, drawn 9, lost 11, scored 28 goals and conceded 39. Their recent form isn't great. They've got no wins in the last 5, 4 defeats and 1 draw. And their last victory, albeit a hell of a victory, was away to Sheffield United. It was the second weekend of November, just before the World Cup break kind of kicked in. And their away form, I know this is the league form we're discussing, or it's an FA Cup game, so things might be very different in terms of squad and team selections and stuff. But their away form so far this season is pretty poor. Only 11 points and 2 wins from 14 games, and they've only scored 8 goals in those games as well. So at the moment, they're not a side that tends to travel away from the New York Stadium very well.
Now, I don't like doing this, but it's one of those situations where you could, if you wanted, explain away the 6 wins as well to momentum. The first couple were under Paul Warne and invariably at the New York, kind of crested away from last season. And then those couple of results you mentioned, yes, it is amazing to win at Stoke and win at Sheffield United. Have a look at the underlying numbers on both of them. It feels very much, if you played those games 10 times, okay, they won both of them, and it's huge credit, particularly the Stoke one. Even in that game was so smash and grab that they scored the goal when Stoke had a player off the pitch injured. It was like their only shot, and Stoke had 10 men for that one moment, and then had 55 shots. So they've still got it. They've still got it in them. But in terms of the psychology, doesn't a Rotherham victory here, or Rotherham putting effort and stock into this, have a lot greater value to them than it does for us? And I don't want to get into the whole debate about FA Cup being distraction or what have you, but we're in the situation here where it's like the biggest game possible next. And if anyone gets injured or anything like that happens, everybody is going to be wise after the event. Obviously, if we beat Plymouth, no one will say a thing. History is immediately rewritten. But is there not a sense that Rotherham can get a bit of confidence? They can come to a nice stadium where they often do well, get a win, and move back to the league. Whereas for us, it seems like they've got a lot to gain and we've got a lot to lose. Am I just being cynical there?
No, it does. It's kind of almost like a free hit for the manager, isn't it? It's an extra game he's got to try and embed his philosophies and kind of, work on things. Also, he's not been there that long. So I know either the 6-week or the 4-week World Cup kind of shut down to get his methods across on the training ground. But you can't replicate, that live match atmosphere, that live match kind of experience. So it's pretty much a free hit for him. And if they can come here and do well, like you say, at a place where they traditionally do well, it could breed some real confidence going back into their league program. And for us, even before the Christmas kind of, I know we didn't lose over Christmas, the 5 points we took. Before that, I was kind of looking forward to this game, like I said earlier, as a benchmark and a test. But the way things have fallen now, we're being, so far behind Plymouth that game is now absolutely massive, and all of our focus really should be on that one. And this one could be a bit of an unwanted kind of distraction. Hopefully, touch wood, some of the fringe players will get some game time. We'll discuss what we might do in a little bit of time. But hopefully we'll just come through it. And if we get the right result, happy days. If we do go out, I'm not going to be that bothered given what we have on the horizon 7 days later.
Feels like they've got a few players who are in the Huckabee zone, but between League One and the Championship, rather than between the Championship and the Premier League or the Rob Earnshaw. It's probably not fair on Huckabee. He was actually quite good at the top level, wasn't he? But you know what I'm saying, don't you? The great David Johnson II, maybe he was in that zone as well. He claims to be in that zone as well. I think he's being modest. But who you kind of picking out for Rotherham?
So they got some familiar names. Richard Wood, I was surprised, is still going strong. I remember being linked with him under Roy Keane. Roy Keane was here. I think he was at Wednesday at the time, and we were linked under him, but he's still going at the age of 37. He's kind of been pretty much a mainstay in their back three, being that age, and obviously with different priorities with regards to their league survival. I don't know if he'll start or not. Top scorer is, I'll let you pronounce it. How do you pronounce this guy's name?
Ogbene. I won't do his first name.
Ogbene's the top goal scorer with 6 goals and 2 assists. I think I've seen him linked with Swansea somewhere. That might be idle Twitter.
No, that won't be idle Twitter. There's going to be lots of Obafemi will probably go out of Swansea. Whittaker will go out of Swansea, and a couple will come in. So no, I think that's there's potentially legs in that.
Okay, he's the top scorer with 6 goals, 2 assists. They play a 3-1-4-2 formation according to WhoScored.com most of the time. He's one of the strikers alongside Connor Washington, former QPR, former Charlton. I think, like you say, one of those players who's pretty consistent in League One, but maybe struggles to make that step up to the Championship. He's got 4 goals from 18 appearances so far this season. And the guy that makes them all kind of tick, correct me if I'm wrong here, the one in the 3-1-4-2, it seems to be Daniel Balaza, who kind of sits there in front of the back. Does he take set pieces out of interest? Because he's got 6 assists.
Yeah, very well. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's why I saw his heat map was just, patrolling and protecting that back four. But then I saw he had 6 assists and 2 goals. So I thought, maybe he's a set piece taker. So he's one to watch out for the from the set pieces. He's kind of making the tick. I think he's ex-Newcastle, isn't he, if I'm right?
He is.
Yeah, ex-Newcastle. So a good pedigree at a Premier League club. They're the kind of the 4 main ones in terms of the numbers. But being an FA Cup game, they may well look to, rotate and give some people a bit of game time. So they're the ones to look out for if they do play. But it will likely be a 3-1-4-2 formation because that's what they've kind of played, regardless of who the manager's been.
And remember, Paul Warne left after the window closed, so it is a Paul Warne squad essentially. So look out for some huge centre backs, but you won't have to look out for Michael Ehekra or Michael Smith anymore, who have punished us on previous. Smith especially, hasn't he? He scored in a few games against us, hasn't he?
He got the winner, didn't he, last April? I think it was. We lost to them twice last season, didn't we? So, the game in November, right towards the end of Paul Cook's tenure, that was a 2-0 defeat at Portman Road. Ben Wiles.
2-0 massacre, wasn't it?
It wasn't it? It was a real masterclass of being schooled at this level. And Cook came out after the game, didn't he, and said, Rotherham are where we aspire to be. And it kind of all felt a little bit like, we're back where we started. We're not really moving forward here. And I think it must have been about 3-4 weeks later, maybe not even that long, he moved on. And then the game on Sky in April, a 1-0 defeat at the New York.
Was that game, actually? Then they weren't very good and we were worse.
Yeah, we were in that part of the season. We were struggling to score. We kind of wanted the season to end, didn't we? Because we'd drawn at Crewe, lost to Cambridge, we drew at Shrewsbury, I think it was. We knew we couldn't make the playoffs, and we kind of all just wanted that kind of that game, that season to peter out and finish.
They were in that nervy just win promotion race where it's all. We always reference that Crystal Palace game when we got promoted from the Championship, where it's a good team, but it's just win.
Just get the way you have
nervous
to do,
as hell, just win. Yeah.
Get the result. They finished second last season, obviously on 90-odd points. I think they missed out by a couple to Wigan, didn't they? Wigan won the league, and they got across the line eventually and kind of finished second. And we haven't actually beaten them. It's nearly 4 years to the day it will be. The last time we beat them was under Paul Lambert. Will Keane scored in a 1-0 win.
How did we win that game?
Because who was that ginger defender?
James Collins.
Yes, because he headed everything clear for 90 minutes and was absolutely immense, wasn't he?
They got mugged, didn't they?
Yeah, very much so.
30 shots. It was like us against Lincoln earlier in the season, wasn't it?
Yeah, very much so. That was nearly 4 years ago to the day. So I think that's after the Accrington defeat, where Lambert, obviously, the first time we went to Accrington, lost in the FA Cup. We win that, kind of maybe thinking maybe of a bit of a reprieve here, but we all know how it kind of panned out. We had a load of 1-1 draws after that, and then it just went horribly, horribly wrong. So it is 4 years kind of since we've beaten them, and hopefully that record will change at the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. So how would you approach this then? Because we're very much, and we have this conversation every year about the Cup, you're very much damned if you do, damned if you don't. And to be honest, I accept both arguments. The people who say, no, roll out, get ready for Plymouth, roll out as many first teamers as you can, have a good performance, keep those relationships growing. It's a reasonable argument. And also a perfectly reasonable argument is don't have Connor Chaplin, Christian Walton, Sam Morsey anywhere near this game.
I think, though, given the squad depth at the moment, some of them are simply going to have to play. I guess we've had a few players come back from injury pretty quickly, the likes of Harness and Lee Evans and Shawnee Aluko. They've kind of come straight back into it. So I guess you might use that as a chance to dip them out. But in central midfield, especially, if you do rest Evans, having just come back from a decent period of time on the treatment table, then you're going to have to play Morsey and Humphreys unless Massimo Luongo has signed in the last 20 minutes and you can suddenly get him registered and get him thrown in there. I think Flaherty will play in goal. I don't think Walton will be anywhere near it. Maybe Coleman on the bench as a backup keeper. The defence, maybe Keogh and Edmondson might come back in. Neither have played for a few weeks, so it's a good chance to give them some game time and at the same time rest the first choice of Wolfenden and Burgess. Greg Lee, I guess, might get another chance at left back. KVY at right back if Danassian went off and was sick at half time the weekend, then get him rested and get him fit for the Plymouth game the weekend after. And then the three behind the strikers, you think Carl Edwards will probably start. It's an opportunity there to get him some minutes under his belt. Harness has just come back and hasn't really looked at it. He was amazing against Oxford, but not against Portsmouth or against Lincoln.
Surely you need him against Plymouth. That's going to be a tight game, and he's
exactly
a finisher,
so.
Isn't he?
Yeah, so I would not be playing him. I'd probably play Aluko. He did 60 minutes against Lincoln. Looked quite good, I thought. So I'd probably have him in the number 10 role. And then, do you risk Chaplin? For me, no, probably not. Given that he's almost likely, goal threat. You wouldn't want him anywhere near this game with Plymouth on the horizon. And then up front, does he start Ladapo? Does he start against his old club?
It's a former club, point to prove, guaranteed goal, isn't it?
Yeah, or does he start a Hadley?
If you ask the Rotherham fans, it's a guaranteed goal.
Or a Hadley on the bench. I don't know what he'll do with it, but Plymouth has to be the overriding priority. If we were 3 points ahead of them, 2 points ahead of them, or whatever going into this game, I'd be a bit more kind of blasé with who I'd pick, and maybe go a little bit stronger with the hope of using this as a benchmark and a test, and maybe getting Spurs away or Liverpool away in the next round. But given where we are, if there's any doubts over any players, any lingering sickness or illness, I wouldn't have them anywhere near this one personally.
So, knowing what we know about McKenna, and obviously, the benchmark for cautiousness is Mick McCarthy, isn't it? Who was, it was a big strength and a big weakness in the end, wasn't it? How risk averse he was. I don't see him doing anything massively outlandish. So it's probably going to be quite boring, half and half, isn't it? It will be rest some players, but probably not 9 changes or whatever. Do you think?
Yeah, well, that's kind of in keeping with his cup record, isn't it? Even in the Pizza Cup this season, we went strong in some of the early rounds, surprisingly. And I guess at the time, we had this whole starters and finishers piece, which is kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit given the squad situation in the last few weeks. But if you look at his cup history, then it would suggest that he might like you say, do a kind of half and half, and then make a load of substitutions on the hour mark to get people off, and that might well be what we end up seeing. I just think it's a good chance to get some minutes into the likes of Keogh, Edmondson, Greg Lee, Aluko, Edwards. And I'd be surprised if those four, certainly I'd be surprised if they didn't start. And Humphreys obviously in central midfield.
And given that Luongo's been, so we just need to be registered by tomorrow, won't he?
Yeah, it's normally
given
midday.
Given that he's been training, I think that makes a bit of a difference, doesn't it? As to whether you just, if you want to stop Morsey getting red carded or keep Humphreys fresh or Evans fresh or whoever, it does seem plausible, doesn't it?
Yeah, because we train at such high intensity, don't we? So although he's not played any football, I guess he will be short of match sharpness. But in terms of overall fitness and patterns of play and understanding, he should be pretty much ready to go. He's now had 3 weeks, is it, training with the first team? So you'd like to think that, even if he's one that gets subbed on the half time or the hour mark, and he's maybe one that could come in and kind of fill a gap to do a bit of a job, and then we get to rest somebody like Morsey, because can you imagine if Morsey gets sent off in this game and then misses out against Plymouth? It'd be an absolute nightmare, wouldn't it?
For violent conduct or something, four match ban as well.
Yeah. Which, knowing I will probably tick him over to the Sheffield Wednesday game as well. But yeah, if Luongo is kind of anywhere near match sharpness, then get him in. It's a good chance to get some minutes under his belt and bring him up to speed with the rest of the squad. And more importantly, you can stick Morsey in Cotton Wool, because he's played an awful lot of football. He was starting against Bracknell, wasn't he? He was starting against Buxton in the cup as well. He's played an awful lot of football recently, and I just think maybe sitting one out, especially with what's coming in a week's time, could be beneficial for him and us massively.
Do you think either manager would let this end in a draw?
No, that's the worst case scenario, isn't it? That's the absolute worst case.
It feels fairly likely, though, doesn't it?
Do you think? I think it'll be a tight, narrow game, but I mean that's the awful. That would be after the Plymouth game, midweek after Plymouth, then, wouldn't it? Before whoever we've got the weekend after that. No one's going to have any interest in that, but I guess if that's the way it goes, that's the way it goes.
Do you remember that one, McCarthy and Wilder? I think, did Lee Evans score in that game for Sheffield United, where basically the last 10 minutes we were losing 1-0, and it was like that World Cup game. It was like, well, we kind of don't really want to, we'd rather lose than draw here, so we just stand around for the last 10 minutes of this one? And Mick didn't make any substitutions, did he, if I'm remembering?
No, the only good thing to come out of that, didn't we sign Cameron Carter-Vickers a few days later off the back of him playing in that game, I think so.
Pass. I remember that being a surprise sign, and so it might have.
Yeah, because Tommy Smith goes to America, I think, in a few days after that. And I'm sure we went out and signed Cameron Carr-Vickers, but that's all I can remember about that game. Yeah, that wasn't one where we looked to go for it at all because, a midweek, a Tuesday after Plymouth trip up to Yorkshire is going to be a nightmare for everyone concerned, isn't it?
That will definitely be. Yeah, I don't want to be the negative Nelly, but I can see it being a draw.
Oh, I hope
a reserve team in the replay and getting knocked out.
After extra time, knowing our luck.
Penalties, yeah. How do you see it playing out then?
I'll go for a narrow 1-0 Ipswich win. Hopefully, we'll have enough about
Liverpool away
to build a little bit of momentum and a little bit of confidence going into the Plymouth game.
There you go. Right, wonderful stuff. I've got lots and lots of things to plug here. So we are in association with the Greyhound. Are people down there on Saturday? Seb, are you heading down?
Personally, I'm not going back for this one. I'm back for Plymouth the week after, but Rich will be there, Dave will be there, Craig normally puts in an appearance. So if you're anywhere near the vicinity, pop down there. The outside bar is now open. We were there, a Peterborough game where it was like -5 outside and people were still outside in the car park and stuff. So fair play to them. Yeah, get down there before the game. It opens normally about 11:30 or so, and I'm sure you'll see some of the Blue Monday team around there. Lots of the Telegram group should be there as well. Normally we see Chris Rand and the rest of them all in there. So head down there and hopefully you can have a catch up with us all.
Yeah, good link to Telegram. Come and join us on Telegram. You get a 2-week free trial. It is behind a paywall after that, but really good community. That chat has been, I bet if I open it up now, there'll be 100 messages all about the transfer stuff. Really good high standard discussion, if that's not too snotty of me to say. You can also get a 23% discount on all merch over at the merch store. I should have a button here to press. There it is. Head over there. Blue Monday, ITFC.co.uk. We get all your links through there. If you are heading to the game from anywhere outside of the town, and we know that a lot of people listen on their car drive, do drive safely and leave us a review, not while you're driving though, and thumbs up on YouTube would be absolutely lovely. Right, feet to the fire, gun to the head. By the time this game kicks off, how many players are we going to sign, Seb?
One. That'll be Luongo. That's the easy win, Luongo. And then I think it sounds like we might get one in before Plymouth, hopefully. And one of those two strikers would be nice.
Clever, because there's signed and there's announced, isn't there? And,
very true.
Maybe deals are being done as we speak, and maybe they're being announced next week.
If we could bring in either Hurst or Broadhead before Plymouth, that would just give everyone a massive lift, wouldn't it? Strikers are the sexy signings that people want to see. We all hark back to 2000 when you've got, Johnson, Scowcroft and Naylor doing great, but then we sign Marcus Stewart and it makes the difference. That kind of classy player who you want to bring in. They always get the headlines. And if we can do anywhere near that, it would just give everyone a bit of a lift, take a bit of a pressure off the likes of Jackson and Ladapo, who maybe have been off it recently in recent weeks. And hopefully that would just give us that lift we need going into that huge game against Plymouth.
That's a good way to finish. And Marcus Stewart mention is always of great value on this podcast. And yes, next week the real business begins, and we'll do the build up. Obviously Plymouth are playing in the meantime as well, so that game could get even bigger over the weekend. Seb, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you everybody for watching, listening. Subscribe, follow, comment, like, all of that good stuff. And hopefully a FA Cup third round win with no injuries or bookings for Egyptian central midfielders. And we will see you next week for more Blue Monday action.